Hi, everybody. This is Dr. George James, another On the Couch with Dr. J. Many of us are just overwhelmed right now. There's just so much going on between the pandemic, increased awareness around racial injustice. There's lots of people who have lost their jobs, lots of people who are working harder on their jobs than they ever have. Some people who have gotten sick, some people who are just nervous and scared about the possibility of getting sick. It's just a lot that people are feeling. And that's not to mention just some of the things I hear in my office of people who might be struggling in their families or in their love life, the challenges and obstacles. And it can just be so overwhelming. And when we get so stressed and overwhelmed that sometimes we just don't know how to cope, or the coping strategies that we have might not actually be the best. And so today I just wanted to share some of the things that I've been trying to practice and that I've been trying to encourage my clients to practice of what they can do to cope during all of the different things and the challenging things that are going on right now. As a licensed marriage and family therapist, I'm often trying to help people just thinking about what can they do better to make their lives better, their relationships better, their families, business, even friends and roommates. Because we can have these struggles in our interpersonal relationships that just come up. And it's important to think about ways that you can cope. And I found myself during this time, especially since COVID, uh, thinking about what are the things that I can do differently. And there's been really three things that have been really important. And I just want to highlight some of that. One is being able to just find maybe purpose or meaning, maybe during this time or overall. Some of us were just going so fast that we haven't really had the time to think about what is it that you want to do? What is it that might be part of even your unique purpose and skill set? What is it that you have to offer the world? And sometimes having some time, we can really think about that. Or sometimes we need to make the time to think about that. And I found myself thinking about that more. I've been honored and blessed to be able to help people over 19 years in the work that I do. But sometimes it's important to think about, is there another way, or is there a deeper way, or is there something I could add to the what I do to continue to help people? And I've been thinking about that. And it's been a great exploration even throughout the summer about how can I support and help people to get to their better lives, to a better place in their life, better place in their families and in their love life and in their businesses. And that's been really great. So this could be a great time and a great way to even cope with some of what's going on is to think about purpose, to think about meaning, to think about where you might be and what you want to do. Another thing that's kind of really related to that I've been able to do, and that I encourage you all to try, is to be grateful. I know it's hard to think about what can I be grateful for. There's so much that's going on, especially if it's really impacted your family, or if you've lost a loved one, or you've been just overwhelmed by everything. It can be really difficult to think that there's anything that's out there that you can be grateful for. And I get that. And I understand how challenging this request might be for you. And sometimes, even in our toughest moments or overwhelming moments, the ways to cope could be to think about what's one thing that happened today that's good? What's one thing that I can be grateful for? I've really encouraged a lot of my clients to think about a gratitude journal. It's something that's not new. We've heard this for a while, but sometimes we don't practice it. And maybe that's when you first wake up, you just think about the day or the day before, or maybe before you go to bed, you kind of think about what's happened so far. What's two or three things that have been you can be grateful for? I was just working with a client who was just hardworking and has done so much, and there was just so many obstacles on that day. But what I was able to encourage this client to think about was you didn't give up. You kept trying. Even with all the obstacles, even with all the challenges on that particular day, you still did. And that's something to be grateful for. Your ability to push, your ability to believe, your ability not to give up. And so that is something that I try to practice and encourage even my children to think about. How can you just be grateful? Sometimes it's what was the high or the low today, and then what can I be thankful for? What can I be grateful for? What ways can I express gratitude? Because what it does is it shifts our perspective. Maybe it moves it away from us, or maybe it moves it away from the hardship that's out there, even for a moment. Some of these things we have to face. We have to face COVID. We have to face racial injustice. We have to face that some people, like I said, have lost their jobs, and some people are working maybe more than they ever had. And that's okay. The other thing that I want to share in all of this that has been helpful for me is sometimes the way that we cope is that we find space and time that maybe we didn't have before. And the only way that we can do that is to create a boundary, is to recognize that we have to think about what's really important to us. And for me, that's family and spending family time and trying new things and going to new places within reason. And sometimes that might just be a walk or a hike, or that might be trying a new board game, or uh, just having good conversation, or doing puzzles, just doing something different. But what I've realized, to be able to do that, I had to put some boundaries. I had to create the space to do that. And maybe you feel overwhelmed, or maybe you're trying to pivot, maybe you're trying to figure out what to do in your life right now, and you can't really think about that. But maybe if you can put the boundary, it can help you to cope, and you can also gain some really valuable time. Maybe it's time with a partner, maybe time with a loved one or a family member or children, or just those that you are in your own personal bubble, and to think about how you can cope. And in doing that, you can find ways to talk about what's important for you. That you can have boundaries over what's important for you. And that could be, for me, it's just knowing that I have at least 1 hour in the evening hours that is dedicated to just doing something with my family. And oftentimes it's more than that, but I know that it's going to be at least 1 hour that I'm spending just doing things and having a good time. What is that time that you are protecting that will allow you to have a good time? That, one, maybe gives you a break from everything else, and then two, allows you to have good times, to laugh, to create memories, and to have fun. So there are multiple ways to cope. There are multiple ways to practice these strategies. I just wanted to share some of the three that I've been doing in my life. To think about purpose and meaning, to really uh, move forward on the things that are important to you through that purpose and meaning. To then also think about, what are you grateful for, even in the midst of hardship? What can you be grateful for in the morning or at night? And then two, to create space and put some boundaries around it that can give you a break, but also can allow you to connect with those that you care about. I hope that you practice some of these things, and I hope that you find ways to cope during this tough time. Because if we can do that, maybe we can get to the next moment, and then the next moment after that. And that maybe somewhere around this time or through this time, you can learn more about yourself and those around you. And maybe even in the hardest of times, in the most overwhelming of experiences, that you can find your way to cope through it. It's Dr. George James, another On the Couch with Dr. J.